Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we have the Franck Muller 30th Anniversary Tribute Bi-Compax Chronograph. For those keeping score, this is Grail Watch number 2 from a company created by Rake and Revolution magazine founder Waco. Collaborations with creators that are often historically inflected, very low volume, extremely exclusive, and enduringly beautiful. So this Grail Watch 2 was a 2022 model year, limited edition of 50 pieces, the second series of collaborations from Grail Watch, and it pays homage both to the historic Patek Philippe 1463 as well as the Franck Muller Chronograph from the 90s that referenced the exact same Patek model. It is a modern watch, but full of anachronistic and delightful details. Starting with the size, the original from the 90s, the Franck Muller Lemania-powered chronographs were 36 millimeters in diameter. This steel case is 39 in diameter. It's 12.5 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, 47.5 with a nice vintagey 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on the wrist, it does look like a vintage watch. 39 is still fairly compact, though I feel like the size has come back to us as a popular choice. 38 to 40 I think is as big as any dress watches are going to be moving forward. And on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see particularly down the barrel, I have a lot of clearance on each side. This being less than 48 millimeters across the wrist, I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and it is fairly thin, but it also has a tiered case flank that'll easily slide underneath a dress cuff. The strap, as you can see, is a Franck Muller factory piece, calfskin on the bottom, calfskin on the top. We have a sheer cut side, a monotone stitch. The lugs are drilled fairly close to the case to allow for a better fit on a small wrist and to prevent any impediment to the motion of the strap so you can pull it straight down. A spring bar that's curved has been used on each side. We have a buckle here that is the traditional double gadroon Franck Muller satin steel piece for quick adjustments, and then you can see a monotone stitch used with a little bit of a distressed leather grain to give it a bit of an aged aesthetic. The case is all satin finish with the exception of the crown, pushers, and the uppermost facet of the bezel. You can see that the bezel is tiered. It's stacked inboard almost like a pagoda from the case flank to create the impression of a thinner watch. The lugs are thin, tapered, and brushed just like everything else. They're deliberately rounded off a little bit at the end. They don't have the hardest of character lines, that visual softness imparting elegance. We have a Patek-inspired Tasti-Tondi style set of domed and fluted chronograph pushers, and then we have a polished Franck Muller logo on the crown. The dial has a wonderful pebbly grained finish, a tachymeter scale outboard which can be used in conjunction with the chronograph to measure the speed of an object, such as a car over a kilometer. So if you start the chronograph when the car starts the kilometer, and then you stop the chronograph now, that means the car is going 350 kilometers per hour. That's a very fast car. More details include sunken sub-registers with polished chapter rings and metallic concentric patterns internally. We have fired steel leaf-style hands at center, as well as for the sub-registers. We have little steel cabochon for the hours, and then Breguet-style Arabic numerals for 12 and 6. Note that lovely open 6 and the flourish of the 12. We have larger registers than on the historic watch. That's one of the elements that is perhaps a functional upgrade, as it's easier to read the registers on the more modern watch. Of course, the case is larger. We have a combination of a brushed metallic track outboard for the tachymeter and that pebbly grain inboard, which is more off-white than white. We also have less dial text than the original, which had Rolex-style block text down at 6 o'clock, and this does not. Flipping it all over, you can see a rare high horology application of a moonwatch caliber. Well, technically, the moonwatch uses a variant of the Lemania 1873 with 3 registers. This is the Lemania 1872 with 2 registers, but mechanically speaking, they are just about identical. Manual wind, 46-hour power reserve, 3 hertz beat rate, 18 pivot jewels, and you can see a combination of a cam-based lateral clutch system. You can also see on the back it says Grail Watch. That's Waco's new company. Collaborations with creators collectors to bring out special edition watches is not a new idea. One might even say it's getting a little bit tired. So we're going to judge these things now based on the quality of the individual watches rather than the notion of a collaboration. Because like I said, between every blog and vendor having collaborative special editions, Max with MB&F, Maitre du Temps, Harry Winston in the Opus series, and what seems like a million others, this idea is getting a bit worn out. But the watch, if it's great, is just objectively a great watch, and that's what we have right here. Now, the quality of the parts is comparable to what you would have found on the old display caseback version, the Omega 1863. Remember when the Moonwatch caliber was much less highly modified, and we had two versions. We had the solid caseback 1861 and the display caseback 1863. This is like the 1863, meaning the elements of the chronograph, such as the brake, the steel clutch components, the horns, the recentering hammers, as well as the bridges, all of this is finished to a much higher standard. Not high artisanal, but a much higher standard than what you typically get on a Moonwatch movement like the new 3861. This is a lot better than that. And then all of this is water resistant down to 30 meters. A real memorable piece from the 90s, rebirthed in volumes actually quite similar to the original production volumes from the 90s, which were 30, 40, 50 watches made for regional markets. Here, we're talking 50 pieces, and you're unlikely ever to see another in the same place. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. One more quick note. You may be asking, 30th anniversary of what? Well, of course, this 30th anniversary watch was celebrating 30 years of Franck Muller itself, the original 1990s rock star independent that paved the way for the rest. Franck as a brand may be past its best days, but its long-term relevance and impact is undeniable, and this watch is an homage to that brand's absolute 1990s peak.